Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cambridge Veritas. My name is Krishnatrya, and I am your IELTS trainer. I've been teaching IELTS for the last 15 years, and I've dedicated my life to helping students master IELTS writing. If you're able to hear me and see me, would you show me a big thumbs up in the top chat corner, please? Thank you. Let's talk about the title of the essay for today. The title of the essay is IELTS Writing, Task 2, sorry. And there's something special about today's IELTS writing task. More often than not, we tend to see essays that have a lot of improvement to be done. But today's essay is special because this student has actually gotten more than 7 band. I'll tell you exactly what the band is towards the end of the live stream. But it's quite interesting actually, because we're going to be looking at what are the positive factors that we have to sort of keep in mind as IELTS candidates who are supremely scared of the IELTS writing component. So this is what we're going to be looking at in today's session. Have a look. The agenda. There are 4 things, concrete things that we will learn by the end of today's agenda, by the end of today's live stream. And these are the 4 things. Number 1, we're going to be looking at how do you clearly state your position in the what. So we're going to be looking at, in a certain kind of paragraph, how do you clearly state your opinion is point number 1 we're going to be looking at. Number 2, we will look at what are some advanced devices. Now, what kind of devices? Maybe some of you have heard this word before, but we're going to be elaborating on it in a little while, and especially related to remote travel. So the topic apparently now you know is going to be related to remote travel. We're also going to be looking at how do you balance different viewpoints, opposing views. For example, you're agreeing or disagreeing. And I'm not saying that today's essay is going to be about agree, disagree. But if you do have 2 opposing views, how do you sort of put it together in an essay is what we're going to be looking at in a nice way. And the last thing is writing-concluding statement. So how do you write concluding statement is what we're going to be looking at as well. So without further ado, let's start. So this student, before I tell you, let's have a look at the question first. The question is, it is now possible for scientists and tourists to travel to remote natural environment, such as the South Pole. Do the advantages of this development outweigh the disadvantages? So, as a norm, I'm going to be asking you, what do you think is this question type? Is this option number 1, advantages, disadvantages? Is it option number 2, agree, disagree? Or is it option number 3, problem, solution? Few students with us today, do let me know in the comments section below, what do you think it is? Thank you. So it is advantages and disadvantages. So there's that. Now, let's have a look at the essay that was actually written by the student. So this student had gone through some training, and during the middle of the week, the student had written this essay. What are we going to do about it? We're going to be dissecting it, and we're going to be looking at it paragraph-wise. So let's get started. We're first going to look at the introduction paragraph. I'm going to read the introduction paragraph for you, so bear with me. As technology has developed, people can now travel to remote, natural areas. While this trend is beneficial to some extent, I would argue that its disadvantages are more significant. It's got this person, the students used some nice vocabulary. Some vocabulary is actually matching the question, as a matter of fact. But let's have a look at here. Task achievement. The first thing that I see here in task achievement is the student has a direct response to the question stated, which I think is great. It's clearly mentioning what he or she thinks. But there's one thing that is missing, and that is the feedback that we want to give here is whenever we write introduction, we need to write the outline statement for it. As we mentioned before as well, what is the meaning of outline statement? Outline statement means you tell the roadmap of your essay. What exactly is your essay going to be about? So the key points of the outline to be discussed in the essay are missing. So that is one feedback related to task achievement. But overall, the structure, etc., besides that, I think deserves claps. Here we go. The next one here is coherence and cohesion. There's definitely a clear progression as well. The student first spoke about the fact that technology is developed and people are able to sort of travel to different areas as well. The student has attempted to use complex sentence too, because the sentence is starting with the word while, which we will talk about in the next slide. But there's one thing that is missing. Link development more explicitly to accessibility of remote areas. So this person is talking about that there's been some development, but you need to explicitly support it with the accessibility. So that link kind of is missing here. I repeat, if you're using the word development, there's a very simple rule of writing. Whatever you say, you have to support that in the next statement. So there's that link is a little bit that is missing, which is something that the student can work toward. Now, what is lexical resources? Lexical resources means, in simple word, lexis means vocabulary, the words that you use. So as I said, I quite like the words that the student was using. Here we go, please have a look. There are clear positioning words. This person's using words like beneficial, significant. So the positioning word basically means collocation is setting in the context. But this person needs to remove has developed, which is very common basic lingo. And this can be changed with technology has advanced. So can you see two words, has developed? I repeat, has developed sort of changes to has advanced. Technologies advanced, which I think would be a more academic way of saying it. Now, what is GRNA? It means grammatical range and accuracy. So the sentence is error-free. There's no grammatical mistake, at least. And it's quite concise and accurate. So only positive things about it. Let's now move to the first paragraph. This was the introduction paragraph. We're now going to be moving to main idea 1. So here we go. This is paragraph 1. If you want to pause the live stream and read it yourself, please feel free to. However, I'm going to be reading it out loud for you. Here we go. On the one hand, visiting isolated natural places has some benefits. Okie dokie. Firstly, this is a newer. There are two words that I've highlighted here. Newer and more interesting. Can you tell me in the chat below? There's something wrong with newer and more interesting. What is that? We're going to be putting it somewhere in the box below. And more interesting type of traveling. Since getting to other cities or countries has been too common for most people, it might be more exciting for them to explore new places, such as the South Pole, or the Amazon rainforest, which I think is great because this person's using position markers as well. these are also acting as good examples too. This gives them valuable experiences and unforgettable memories. Okay, good, short sentence. Secondly, when visiting remote areas, people, especially scientists, might acquire more knowledge about the natural habitat. Okay? For example, when coming to the North Pole, scientists can learn about the life of polar bears, which live far away from humans. A lot of positive things really about it. So my feedback when it comes to task achievement. What is the meaning of task achievement? It means answering all the parts of the question. So my feedback for task achievement is the student has mentioned clear advantages. Bravo, thumbs up, peace out. But you need to be able to explain, there's explanation of how this benefits tourists could be slightly expanded. So for example, this student is mentioning the advantages, but the student is not mentioning how it benefits the tourists. I think there's a lot of mentioning of, if you read it again, the benefits for scientists. But I think if you add one or more supporting sentences for tourists as well, that'd be great. And that's why it sort of feels like I'm taking scientists' side more, and I'm not sort of talking about tourists as much. So that balance is important, all right? It shows that the coherence is not that appropriate, and you're not answering the question that correctly. It's not about what you're saying, it's about how you're writing it in the IELTS. So that's important. So don't just take scientist's side, because you might as well have more points for it. Also talk about normal tourists as well. Now, what is the meaning of coherence and cohesion? For those of you watching who do not know, coherence and cohesion mean the flow, overall flow. So my comment here is, this is a logical progression. There are transitions that have been used as well, but use better transitions like in addition or moreover. If you see secondly here is a very basic and common transition and cohesive device. So that's my word to the wise. Here we go. Now let's talk about lexical resources. What is the feedback there? The feedback here is, as I mentioned before, this student has used very good examples of Amazon rainforest, South Pole, etc. But this person needs to change the vocabulary of words like newer or more interesting. I repeat, this person needs to change two words here, newer and more interesting. Why? Because there are better alternatives that exist, and these are quite basic words. Now, when it comes to grammatical range and accuracy, there are different kinds of sentences. There's no grammatical mistake here. Sentences are error-free, not air-free, but there's something that is wrong. This person has used a lot of long sentences. Now, let me show you what exactly do I mean by long sentences. Watch out. So, this sentence starts here, all right? And ding, la 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 la, tick tick tick. My God, such a long sentence. When I was in grade 7, my teacher of English had given me an advice, a piece of advice. And can I tell you what was that? It was, the shorter the sentence, the better. I repeat, the shorter the sentence, the better. And when I was becoming an IELTS examiner, it was exactly the same piece of training in the form of an advice that we'd received. The shorter the sentence, the better. So this is a very, very important trick that I'm giving the viewers right now. The shorter the sentences you write, the better it is. Proposals, emails, any business document, IELTS writing, whatever, the shorter the sentence, the better. So one piece of advice to the student is please write shorter sentences. Mix short and medium length sentences, but not this long. I'm sorry, this looks like a mini paragraph in itself. So that's a bit of it can be an issue. Moving to paragraph number 2. My advice to the student is, before I show you the advice, have a look. There are 2 things that I've highlighted here. Actually 4. Risk of being attacked is one main idea, is one idea that the student has used. And then there's something called large amount of investment on the next in the next sentence. Large amount of investment. Pause the video, read the paragraph. It's not adding. There's no link between it. Again, in IELTS, you write something, then you write an example of it, justify it. Don't write multiple ideas at the same time. That is not process writing. That's not how we do process writing. So for task achievement, the feedback that I've given to this student is here. The student has spoken about strong disadvantages, but word to the wise, include more specific data about costs. You can't just talk about large amount of investments. It's quite vague. Rather talk about something more precise here. So the student could possibly mention a certain range. Why? Because it makes the example more specific. And specificity is what IELTS asks for in the band descriptors as well. A very important requirement there. For coherence and cohesion, there's a clear organization of ideas, which is strengthening the connection between safety. There's a clear organization of ideas, but the feedback is make sure that you make strong the connection between A, the safety bit that you're talking about here, and the high risks of costs, the high costs. So that is a little bit tricky there, which is a piece of advice that I'd like to give to this student. But overall, nice. Moving on. Lexical resources. If you see, there are 2 things that I've highlighted here. I repeat, there are 2 things that I've highlighted here. Sufficiently prepared, nice vocabulary, nice collocation, sort of going together. Adversely affects. Beautiful. Nice. Nice way of sort of putting 2 words together, the adverbs going with the next word. So what is my word on lexical resources? There's good use of specific terms, but cost of traveling is a very common way of putting things, and it's not even academic. So how do you transform cost of traveling to academic? One could say expenses associated with travel. I repeat, expenses associated with travel instead of saying cost of traveling, because there's a lot of difference. Cost of traveling and expenses associated with traveling. So one is quite basic, informal, and common. The other one is academic, professional, and IELTS worthy. Again, grammatical range and accuracy, no major grammatical errors, well constructed sentences. The only advice is break the sentences into shorter fragments. I repeat, break the sentences into shorter fragments. If you see, ding, ding, ding. I'll show you. Yep, got it. So look at this bhai sahab here. So this bhai sahab is starting here, okay, and goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and then goes on and on and on and on. Sorry. Bear with me. And then goes on and on and on and on and on and finishes here. Too long a sentence. Shorten it, please. Again, the rule is shorter the sentence, the better. Shorter the sentence, the better. Now, it does not mean this short, but medium length is fine. Not too short, not too long is what the funda is that we sort of follow. The balance is what we want. Here we go. Next one, the conclusion paragraph. So the conclusion is, I believe the disadvantages of people being able to travel to remote areas outweigh its advantages. Outweigh was a word that was mentioned in the question as well. Please never repeat a word from the question, is what I'd like to tell you, the viewers, and the student who wrote this essay. The task achievement is, have a look. There's a clear final position. However, please do briefly talk about the drawbacks as well. Okay, you're mentioning that disadvantages outweigh advantages, but succinctly mention what are those disadvantages, possibly in a one short sentence. That would add more mass and weight, the overall culmination of the essay, which I think is important for the audience reading it. Coherence and cohesion is good closing, but linking can be better. If you use this word, have a look. If you use this word, I believe, okay, one could say I reckon, or one could also say I would like to asseverate. It just makes it a little more, what is that word? Academic. And that's what IELTS wants, academic. That's exactly what IELTS wants. And finally, lexical resources. Our feedback for lexical resources is the students given clear summary language, but more sophistication is required for I believe. And for grammatical range and accuracy, have a look. Error-free sentences. Maybe add one complex sentence here because you're ending the essay and it just requires that nice structure. For example, instead of saying I believe, a better connector in grammatical range, complex sentences that one can use are, given the significant impact of the disadvantages, or you could say, while there are a lot of advantages, but given the significant impact of, so basically the idea is when you use these kinds of phrases, automatically the clause in the beginning of the sentence sort of gets divided in two halves, two clauses, and that makes it, Anji, that makes it a complex sentence. So that's all. Now, going through the band descriptors, which is our mantra always when it comes to IELTS, what is our verdict for the student? So, for task achievement, this student gets an 8. It was very nice overall, answering all parts of the question, except one mistake here and there. For coherence and cohesion, things could have been better, so I give the student a 7. For lexical resources, can you guess? What is it? 8 people watching. Again, 7. And finally, for grammatical range and accuracy, it is a 7.5. Overall, it was good. There was a mix of sentences, mostly error-free. No article mistakes like we saw yesterday. In case you haven't watched a video that we live streamed that we uploaded yesterday, please do and watch it. The average of all 4 is 7.5. So nice one. So what do we understand from today? This is what we understand. And this is our wisdom tree. I repeat, this is our wisdom tree. So our wisdom tree is telling us, always conclude with sophisticated parallel structure and avoid using words like I believe. So that's wisdom tree's wisdom for us. Number 2, focus on supporting strong examples if you're making a point. For example, the student was talking about investment, cost of traveling. Please elaborate on that maybe. The student was talking about disadvantages and advantages for scientists and tourists. Only was talking about scientists but not tourists. Maybe add a sentence for tourists as well. Now, sorry. Oopsie, what's going on? Structure essay with clear position and balanced views before presenting your stance. So before talking about what this essay is, maybe talk about the outline statement, which is what we had mentioned at the beginning, what you're going to be doing throughout the essay, instead of giving a complete stance of what side you're going to be talking about. Not that there's a problem with it, but just add an outline statement as well, and use advanced transition instead of basic connectors. That's our word to the wise. And that's all. Thank you so much for staying with me in this live stream. But there's something interesting today that I want to show you. This is the question for tomorrow's live stream. And this is an open call to all those students watching us right now. In case you're interested and you'd like your essay to be reviewed at Cambridge Veritas, feel free to email me at krishnatria@cambridgeveritas.com, and we'd love to take your essay and put it here and give you feedback for free. Do share this video with students who are preparing for IELTS but are struggling because they don't have the right place to practice. Do share it with your friends and family. And in case you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe, because that's very important. The motivating factor of teaching students here is that many students are watching, and I think it always helps. Besides that, have a look. In case you'd like to give us any feedback, tell me how you liked today's session, please feel free to scan this QR code and let me know how was today's session for you. I think it really helps when you sort of build on feedback. And in case you just loved it, do let me know with that as well. And the last and the most important point, that is here. Did you see how this essay was very close from a 7.5 to 8 in case you're applying for better jobs abroad, or in case you're applying for great universities abroad, such as the likes of Cambridge University and Harvard University? They don't take anybody who's a 7.5. You'd need to be an 8 or an 8.5 for them. So did you see how close this essay was to an 8 or an 8.5? So the idea here is this. In my 7-day masterclass, I'll show you exactly how to bridge this gap from a 7.5 to 8.5 or 8 using examiner proven technique. And all you have to do is tap on the link in the description below of this video. Go and check out our page of our 7-day IELTS masterclass, where you'll first of all get to see the syllabus of what we do in the masterclass. Not only that, you also get the My Veritas app, where you get 2 features to practice. And these features are Writing Analyzer, which helps you practice Task 1 and Task 2 with feedback, and Speech Analyzer, which helps you practice interviews, long-term rounds, IELTS speaking in action, and also helps you give feedback on a majority of factors. So when you feel ready, feel free to go down and enroll using the link here. It'll escort you to the payment page, and I'll see you live with me starting on Monday at Cambridge Veritas. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say that it was a pleasure working with you in today's live stream, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Before you go, make sure to subscribe, like, do give a thumbs up to this video, and share it with your friends and family. Take care, God bless, and have a great learning experience. All the best for your IELTS.